Hi, America. It's a busy day today. Don't believe me? Check out my block.
Oh, take a look at all this hustle and bustle.
These people could use some compassion. Compassion is caring enough to do something about someone else's need.
But who has time for compassion when you're so busy all the time? I mean, it's the same every day. Get up, get dressed, Pop-Tart for breakfast, school, lunch, more school. Then there's homework, video games, a few selfies, dinner, music practice, and bed. And then the alarm goes off and you start all over again. It's not just you that's busy. People are busy everywhere you look. Moms and dads, business people, buy all the things. Servers, you have the iced tea with no lemon. You have the lemonade with no ice. You have a cup of ice with no tea and a slice of lemon, right? It can seem like there's not enough time to show compassion. But as you'll see with Jesus in today's story, sometimes you have to make time. Pop-Tart me. Yeah. See you in a few.
Hi everyone, I'm so glad you made time to be here at church today. I mean, we have a good time planned for you, and I'm part of it. No, now seriously, you know this whole month we've been talking about what? What is it? Compassion. Compassion means caring enough to do something about someone else's need. We've seen how Jesus went out of his way to care for and show compassion to the people around him. Jesus spent time with all kinds of people, from religious leaders to kids to people just like me. He spent a lot of time with his friends and large crowds, and he was compassionate with everyone. I have a question for you. I want you to think about this. How much of your time this past week was helping or caring for someone else? That isn't a trick question. I really want you to think about it. Does anything come to mind? I want you to hold that thought, okay? When Jesus was making his last journey to Jerusalem, now he knew what was about to happen. He was about to die on the cross for the sins of the world, for you and me. But even though Jesus knew that was coming, he still took time to care for people he met along the way. Now today, our Bible story is in the book of Mark, one of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament that tell us all about the life of Jesus. Mark was one of the first followers of Jesus, but he wasn't one of the 12 disciples. He was a friend of Peter. Now today, we're going to read a story Mark shares in the Bible that can help us see this idea of having the time to help and care for others. This story happened later in Jesus' ministry when crowds following Jesus had really grown. I mean, like by the thousands. There were times when it seemed like everywhere Jesus went, people were surrounding him to hear him teach, to be healed, to even question him. Jesus was a very popular guy, and at this point in his ministry, getting near him was really hard. A lot of people were competing for his attention, which brings us to some questions. Who did Jesus make time for? Especially when so many people wanted to share his time. We're gonna find out. Jesus and his disciples were leaving the town of Jericho, and of course, a large crowd was following them. And on the side of the road, there was this man, a blind man, begging for money. His name was Bartimaeus. In those days, being blind meant there wasn't any work that he could do to earn money. He had to spend his days begging for money on the side of the road. Bartimaeus depended on other people to have compassion for him and help him. It would have been a very hard way to live back then. On this day, Bartimaeus heard that Jesus was passing by. Now remember, Jesus was really famous now, and Bartimaeus would have heard about him and the healing miracles Jesus had performed. He probably thought, maybe Jesus will help me. So Bartimaeus yelled out to Jesus as loudly as he could, "Jesus, have mercy on me!" Or another word would be our new word, compassion. have compassion on me. Some people told Bartimaeus, stop, don't, be quiet. See, people thought this man was not worth Jesus' time. But again, he shouted loudly, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Did you hear that? Bartimaeus was calling out for compassion and asking Jesus to help him. And he didn't stop, even though the people were telling him to be quiet and stop. But what did Jesus think about Bartimaeus? Jesus could have kept going, but he didn't. He stopped what he was doing and told the people to call to Bartimaeus. The people told Bartimaeus, cheer up, get on your feet. Jesus is calling for you. That meant Jesus wanted to talk to you. Bartimaeus was so excited, he threw up his coat, he jumped to his feet, and he hurried to Jesus. Now, I want you to listen to what happens next. This is so good. I'm going to read to you Mark chapter 10 and verse 51. Bartimaeus is right in front of Jesus and he can't even see him. And Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked him. Now imagine what this moment must have been like for Bartimaeus. He had heard how Jesus had healed other people. Now he was standing right in front of Jesus, and Jesus was asking him what he could do to help. The blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. Go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you. Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus. Did you catch that? Right then and there, Jesus had compassion on Bartimaeus and healed him. He stopped what he was doing and made time to help him. Jesus saw Bartimaeus' faith, and after being healed, Bartimaeus immediately became a follower of Jesus. He believed in Jesus. It was a miracle. Can you imagine what the crowds must have thought when this happened? Of all the people who were there, Jesus stopped and took the time out for this man who was begging for help. Sounds like the crowd was very surprised. But Jesus didn't see people like many in the crowd saw them. Jesus truly saw all people and had compassion for all people, especially the ones who were overlooked. And Bartimaeus was overlooked. And on this day, Jesus heard the cries of him. He healed Bartimaeus. Just like that, he took the time to see what Bartimaeus needed, and he did something to help. Jesus showed compassion. Remember? That is caring enough to do something about someone else's need. Our big idea today is make time to help others. It would have been so easy for Jesus to skip over Bartimaeus. Jesus was really busy. People were following him around everywhere. Everyone wanted to see him, be healed by him, and hear what he had to say. But Jesus wasn't too busy to show compassion. He wasn't too busy to help. And because of Jesus, Bartimaeus could see. His life would never be the same again. Now, Mark shares out something else that's really cool, okay? This moment is incredible, okay? First, we might want to excuse the story and say, well, maybe Jesus didn't have much going on that day. Or maybe it was a down day for him, and Bartimaeus just happened to fit in to his schedule. But as you keep reading in the Gospels, Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, where he experienced the final week before his death. Jesus entered Jerusalem ultimately to give his life on the cross. Of course, we don't know for sure, but I'd imagine that Jesus had a lot on his mind, knowing what was going to happen when he got to Jerusalem. And yet, in the midst of all of that, Jesus made time to stop and help Bartimaeus. I think that's pretty amazing. If we want to live a life of compassion like Jesus, we need to make time to help others. Remember, the big idea today is make time to help others. Now, I want you to think back to the questions I asked about who Jesus had time for or made time for. Jesus made time for everyone and anyone. And I asked you at the beginning, how much time did you spend last week helping others? I don't know about you. I know I can do better. I think we all can do better. And this week, let's go out and let's try, and we're going to make time to help others.